Now, you write about your military service that you were attracted to the discipline of the military, but it strikes me that you were already exhibiting enormous discipline, enormous self-control to do all of these many things in college. What was it about the military particularly, that the discipline there?
Well, first of all, by that time I really had, I mean, I was a student leader on campus. I mean, I started getting involved in activities, and it's very easy to be a leader, and it's because I always used to have it in my head, anybody can be average, and it takes another 10 minutes to be above average, and I kind of carried that in my head because I would see that it was just easy to keep your room straight where you could find everything you needed, and even at home I did that. And if you ask me today, and I've got a fairly large closet, my wife would say it's a sickness, but in any event, but buying clothes, since I wasn't fortunate enough to do a long time ago, I have a fairly large closet, and yet I could say to you, Julian, go home, open up there's 3 sets of drawers on the left-hand side as you go in the room. In the left-hand set of the 3 drawers, in the bottom drawer, you're going to find my brown socks, and they'll be in it. Get me a pair of brown socks now. Now you'd say, well, Graves, my wife could have said that's a little sick, but I mean, I know where things are. I can tell you where the summer suits are, and I can tell you where things are. And I'm that way about my office. You don't find any, when I leave, someone told me many, many years ago, I asked a time and motion person, I said, what's the most successful executive you ever met? And this is 20 years ago. And he said to me, it was a person who never left a piece of paper on his desk when he left. From that time on, if you went to my desk right now, and if there's a piece of paper on my desk, I might have hidden it in the drawer, right? I can't tell you I haven't done that. But I really, if the mail comes in on that day, I try to get the mail out. If I get an email, and my family's very proud of me now that I'm learning about computers.
Yes, I'm proud of you too, Earl. I'm waiting for you to send me the first email.
You're going to get one, stand by. But the discipline of doing things a certain way, and I just found that people were kind of lazy in general. They wanted somebody else to do it for them. And so therefore, on campus, I became the person who's responsible for giving the fraternity parties and the fraternity activities, the black tie ball we held each year. And they were at the beginning of the year, which was an enormous sum of money. They'd give me $3,000 and say, take care of the activities. Well, 1, they trusted me, and 2, they should have trusted me, but I didn't have a car on campus. That enabled me to take taxis everywhere because I had the budget all worked out in my mind, and we had the best entertainment you could possibly imagine for what was $3,000 for the whole year. And that meant that I had the money from the fraternity and money from the sorority, because we had a sister sorority called the Deltas as Omegas, which is a large African-American, the largest and most important, we say, African-American fraternity. But the point is that I could organize that. I could organize some of the demonstrations we had to integrate the movie theater near the campus, contiguous with the campus almost, because in the 50s, Baltimore was still very much segregated. And so we opened up the theaters, we opened up the shopping center, and the shopping center in Baltimore when I was at Morgan, if you put on a hat, it wasn't just in Birmingham, you owned the hat. And so there was a great hostility between the surrounding campus, the physical surrounding campus, and what was, in fact, the student body. And I was involved in that. I got to be in charge of the committee that ordered all the movies on campus, and for 1 semester we had nothing but Westerns until the dean grabbed me and said, Graves, we can't have Westerns every week for what the campus will watch. My wife says that there's a mental lapse somewhere, since I still very much like watching John Wayne, because you know John Wayne, the Indians are going to lose because that's the way it has to come out according to Hollywood. And so you can go off and go to the bathroom, get a hamburger, and come back and still see that John Wayne's beating up on the Indians. But again, it enabled me to be a leader. I remember 1 semester that we had a men's dormitory council. Not 1 semester, it was actually my senior year. And somehow there were monitors for each floor and monitors for each of the 3 men's dorms. And so this dormitory council, I was one of the senior people in the council. At the end of the year, we didn't have elections. In other words, they elected a president for the men's dormitories. At the end of the school year. Somehow we didn't have elections and nobody paid attention. When we came back, all of the members who had been part of the council had graduated the year before, and I was the only member left over. But there were other junior members, but in the meeting, since I was the only one who was a junior at the time, no one else knew what had happened, and the dean said, well, who did they elect as president when the council broke up? And I looked around, there was no one. I said, I was elected, right? Well, that was the end of that election. I mean, I became president of Men's Dormitory Council by acclamation, my own acclamation, because no one else knew. Well, again, it was a matter of just setting a tone. And so therefore we had budgets to allow us to do certain things on campus. I sang in the men's glee club within the men's dormitories. I enjoyed doing that and still do. I have a terrible voice, but I enjoy singing. I'm loud, and that makes a difference. But then again, running the business, it was a matter of I wanted to make money. I knew that if I was going to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish in life, and I always had a goal that I'd look at something that it wasn't a car. Somehow I always was interested in real estate, and I've done well in real estate. I don't mean to make that sound immodest, but it's just a statement of fact in terms of those things that I invested in. And so I looked at things that I saw on the campus. I was challenged by my professors in school, and I was majoring in economics. And one of the things that the students found difficult to understand was why was I majoring in something that had to do with economics or business. There was no recruitment going on the campus at all, and there was no recruitment going on for African American students. It didn't matter whether you were at Notre Dame or you were at Morgan State. There was no recruitment from major corporations. I was out of school at least 10 years before the first recruiter showed up on the campus from a place like IBM to really invite African Americans to come to work for major corporations. Keep in mind that you were yet to fight the civil rights movement when I left school. You were probably not even a teenager at that point. So in the '60s, when you opened up things, it was going to be much different in many ways which you weren't even aware of. I mean, today the youngsters on campus, if they haven't had 6 interviews or 10 offers in the course of a school year, if they're good students, they really think they're having a bad year. You had no opportunity to have a bad year. When I left school, you had 3 or 4 options. The headquarters for the Social Security Administration was in Baltimore. As a graduating senior, you could work for the Social Security Administration. That was government work, which again, African Americans have always been very involved in. Not by choice, but that was really the only opportunity to go to work for government. That could be local government, state government, or federal government. Usually the lowest paying jobs, but at least you had a security of knowing that if you work 30 years, you get a gold watch maybe, and you'd retire and you'd have a retirement. And so you had the Social Security Administration. You could teach school, which many students were graduating and doing. They were paying teachers about $3,000 a year. And then you could through the ROTC program, you become an Army officer. I chose that upon graduation to go off to the Army, and it was one of the best choices I ever made.